everyone. Welcome to another episode of DiscussionTale. My name is Kemi Logan, and for today, I have a guest here with me. He is the first Nigerian American representative to Washington D.C. Please welcome Dr. Owolewa. Thank you so much for coming.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
Tell me, how was it like growing up as a second generation to this country?
Yeah, it was amazing. Being that I had parents that were raised in Nigeria, but I was born and raised here in the United States. I was able to have that duality of being an American as well as having that, support and that legacy of family that was born and raised in Nigeria. So I was able to have both.
So did you have like any feelings of like, oh, probably until I was born in Nigeria, I won't be this way? Or is there any value or any like lesson learned from your parents that actually groomed you to the level that you are now?
Yeah, it was definitely one of those things that I was able to reap the rewards of having a Nigerian parent. Like the four corners of my house was considered Nigeria. My mom and dad, they gave me my identity, a Nigerian first name, and a Nigerian last name, nowhere to hide. They also gave me that expectation of being a professional. I was the fourth out of five children.
Oh.
And my oldest siblings were all doctors, MBAs, and that third. So college wasn't exactly great. It was an expectation. And now in office, I try to raise the level of expectations for young people around me.
So your parents being in the like medical line, your mom is a civil engineer, where your dad is a medical technologist,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Did they kind of force you guys to go into science, or was it something like you just decide or you love, or were they an influence to it?
Early exposure to professional careers was something that I didn't really appreciate until I became into the profession. But in terms of my parents' guidance, they wanted us to be self-sufficient, have a job or a career that could pay your bills, have an opportunity for you to serve your community in the best way possible. But in terms of you have to be this, you have to be that, we didn't see it as much. What we saw more is try to find a way for you to not depend on other people.
Wow. So tell me, like, coming to DC, I mean, you're a pharmacist,
Yes,
right? A doctor
yes,
for that matter.
yes.
So what really made you to move from where you are, like, come down to DC?
I mean, my cousin went to Howard University. I
Okay.
went to her graduation, saw the beautiful people, saw people that look like us doing great things, and I said, I gotta be here.
Oh.
So 3 days after graduating my pharmacy program, I moved straight down to Washington, D.C. And ever since, I fell in love with the culture, fell in love with the people, and I got down to business.
Oh, so you didn't move down to DC for the purpose of politics, just because of your cousin?
Yes, I didn't expect to be a politician.
Oh, so what really inspires you? How did you get into that?
Because the first thing I started doing was volunteering in elementary schools. We talked about professionals and that early introduction. I saw kids that looked like me, that didn't have parents that were pharmacists, that didn't have parents who were doctors, who didn't know what they could become. So I thought about if I were to go into these classrooms, show them science, show them that regardless of what they look like or what family they come from, they can achieve what I achieved.
So what do you do? Like teach them?
So we bring science experiments. We get them playing around with things. We get them to see things explode, see things pop, see things make sounds. Just try to get that whoa feeling from children, especially girls. Because oftentimes young women are told that science is for them, is for boys. So if you can fill them up with those fun, engaging experiences, then maybe they can see themselves as that. I also make sure these kids look like scientists. They put on white coats, they put on goggles and wear gloves, because I want them to see each other as like, I'm talking to a future doctor. I'm also a future doctor. And that way we can fill them up with those moments that they can kind of go out and seek more of those opportunities. Yeah. And then one thing I learned is when you're in the community, once you start doing one thing, people tell you to do another thing, people tell you to do another thing. And I didn't find politics. Politics found me. And folks told me, you need to run for this. You need to become an advisory neighborhood commissioner. And that's how it all began.
So what was the first office that you actually ran for? When you're volunteering and people were like, oh, you need to run for office. What was the first position?
The very first thing I ran for was advisory neighborhood commission. It's a position that's very grassroots in Washington D.C. It's an unpaid role, but you're essentially the go-between of the community and the local government. You give advice to elected officials on how bills should look, and vice versa. You tell the community what's coming and what's around. So it was a very interesting race to run for, because here is a person with a Nigerian name that doesn't look like or sound like the people that need to vote for you. And I ran against somebody that was there their entire lives. You know, they were told that you can't win because your name.
So how did you convince them? How were you able to, with your pronunciation, your name and everything, like how were they able to convince and they still voted for you?
Because people know quality. You know, I didn't go in selling myself. I went in talking about what I know. I went in talking about what's available. I was talking to seniors about putting cameras into their house for free to help keep their lives safe. And one thing about Southeast D.C., regardless of your name or where you're from, if they know you're bringing something valuable, then that goes through the differences. You know, and when people thought we had no chance of winning, we won by one vote.
Oh my goodness.
So when they tell you that votes matter and every vote matters, let me tell you, I won by one vote. And because of that one vote, we've been able to start that journey that culminates to today as the U.S. representative.
And currently as a U.S. representative to Washington D.C.
Absolutely.
What's your role? What are you fighting for?
That's a great question. So D.C. is not a state. And because of that, our office doesn't have a congressional vote. We only have a congressional office. So we're fighting for D.C. statehood. But we're not just going to Capitol Hill having boring speeches. We're also identifying the things that we don't have as being a non-state or being a territory, and we're helping fill that in. So whether there's bringing resources to classrooms, whether it's bringing money to violence prevention, whether it's doing the expungement programs that we're doing right now to help seal the records of some of the DC residents who have committed crimes in the past. We are meeting the cause, and we're doing something as well. We're not just talking, we're also working and walking. You know, we're bringing those values of a children from Nigeria and making sure that people in DC know that we're just here to help.
So, I mean, why did you feel like you've running in this position, you're going to achieve this? You know, there's been so many people proud before you. So,
Right.
What is that thing like you feel like doing differently during your own time in your own office is really going to achieve what you're fighting for?
We have you. You have people on an international level. We have people in the media that's really paying attention to what we're doing. You know, nothing that we're doing is done by ourselves. You know, I'm talking about the record sealing program. We have support from nonprofit organizations. We have free lawyer or at no cost lawyer expertise. We have everybody leaning into what we're doing. And we're not worried about what we don't have, whether it's the congressional vote. We worry about what we do have and how we can maximize that. Because without working with organizations to get what we're done, then there is no next stage. There is no next role for us as Nigerian Americans. There is no next level for DC residents to get closer to statehood. We have to lean on what we have and stop crying about what we don't have.
You said you have me. I mean, so how did you get involved?
Absolutely. Well, everybody has a part to play. So if you're an American living in a state outside of DC, call your local elected officials, whether it's your congressperson, senator, representative, whether it's your mayor, whether even your local county executive. Tell them to support DC statehood. But on the inside of DC, we gotta talk to people outside the state or outside of the soon-to-be 51st state about how DC statehood impacts their lives. We do a really good job of talking about why statehood matters to us as DC residents. But if you're in Texas, if you're in Washington State, if you're in Florida, if you're in Georgia, you gotta explain to why us being voters in Congress helps their lives out. You know, we have to make sure that we're not just taking, that we're giving back to.
But why did you choose DC? I mean, there are other states you can go to and run for their representative or something. Why DC?
Because we don't run. I'm not running from the problem. You know, I can move in Maryland. I can go back to Boston. I can go back to Georgia and run for a different seat. But I like the challenge. And us Nigerians, we don't run away from challenges.
We face the challenge.
We face it. And we're here to help.
Yeah, that's true, exactly. And did you actually know, or you know already, and you're still like, I'm still going to do this, like this is an unpaid position?
Absolutely. You know, as I told you before,
I was an advisor neighborhood commissioner.
Mhm.
It was an unpaid role. But one thing I learned is that you either as powerful as you want to be, or you're as powerless as you want to be. I'm very proud of the work we've done in this office, and at times we exceed not only our own expectations, but the productivity of other positions. But it's because of the people we work with. I can't take all the credit. I have to be honest about my team, whether it's Laisa Magushi, our chief of staff, whether it's the community partners we've been able to make for the past couple of years, because that's been the engine.
And you still do your day job. So
Yeah.
how do you combine this with your role right now as a representative and also your day job? Like, how do you do both?
Because we Nigerian Americans.
Oh.
How many people do you know who have a full-time job, a side job, a family, a mortgage, and they still make it work? I mean, my mom is my biggest example. She was a civil engineer, but she still had programs for children all across the neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
She still shared the same things she shared to me with them. I remember when I was in high school, I had classmates who were applying for the same scholarship I was applying for. I'm like, who told you about it? Your mom did. So, and she told me if you didn't earn it, then you didn't get it. I'm not keeping opportunities from other people. Everyone's gonna have the same equal shot. So my mom never complained about it. And I know tons of more people who are working 3 or 4 jobs. I know people in Southeast D.C, single moms, who had to work 3 jobs.
And if you end up achieving this statehood, what next?
What next? You see, I like federal office. I like being in a position to represent DC, bring that voice and spotlight to DC. Right now, when people talk about DC, they talk about Congress, they talk about the presidency. They don't talk about the 712,000 Americans right now who are left behind. So once we get to statehood, I really want to make sure that we stay the voice of that.
Mm.
We stay the voice of those who are often told that they can't hold these positions.
Yeah, okay. Last year you talked about shooting. Like, do you think you were targeted, or was it a mistake, or what happened during the shooting that got into your house or something? Were you targeted?
Yeah, so that's a great question. Last year there was a stray bullet that went into our house, and I didn't even realize until the news covered it that my neighbor's house was also shot.
Oh, you were not around?
I wasn't in the house at the time.
Oh.
I came home to it. So, but the thing was, where I live in Southeast Washington D.C, it only became a story because it was my house, right? And when I came back home, I was mostly surprised that there was no residents outside anymore. The police were already gone, and it almost became a normal thing of my neighborhood. Whereas if it was on the other side of the neighborhood, there would have been people outside for 5-6 hours trying to figure out themselves. And I was concerned about it becoming a normal thing. I think people that live in my community are too used to shootings. They're too used to police coming around. They're too used to things not going their way.
These are part of the things you're fighting for.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Whether you're an elected official or you're a parent, we all have a responsibility to keep our streets safer.
Yeah. So what is your office like? How do you help Africans in this country? What are the things you do to support Africans in this country? That's a great question. And one of the biggest consequences of me becoming the U.S. representative is every Niger reaching out to me. I need to be in this country. I need to be a mentor. And the first thing we do is try to take care of the challenges of today. So there's folks who have immigration issues that have went years upon years on end and living in limbo. We're trying to help get that resolution back faster. So the coming election in Nigeria, what's your take on it? So one thing I've definitely noticed is the increased youth involvement. Unlike before, I do see an increased presence, and I believe a lot of the youth activity, especially online, has been inspired by the American youth. NSARS and Black Lives Matter are not the same, but I can see the key points on social media that were borrowed from the American side. And I also saw a lot of American Nigerian diaspora be really involved, and not only NSARS, but also the elections upcoming. And I do believe that there is an opportunity to keep that communication going. I believe that young people and youth empowerment is key to solving some of the problems going on in Nigeria. So what do you have to say to youth out there, people born here, Nigerians, Africans, in getting involved into politics in this country and also like doing things volunteering? What do you have to say to them?
Reach out to us. We're a free resource. We're not charging anybody for any of the advice. Our stories don't have to begin in the same place, don't have to end in the same place. But everybody has a part to play. I'm actually running candidate forums, trying to teach people how to run for office. Oftentimes, us Nigerians, we can be a little stubborn. I'm a doctor, I should run for mayor. It doesn't start like that. It doesn't begin like that. And oftentimes, knowing how to be the right person at the right time for the right role means success. And we're out here teaching it and really showing folks that how to run and how to win.
Yeah. So thank you so much for coming today. I really appreciate you. Yeah, thank you guys for listening. This is Dr. Oye. So you can reach out to him, reach out to his office. So how can they reach out to you? Email?
Great, yeah, absolutely. Our website is repoyedc, REPOYEDC.com. You'll be the first to know what's going on in our office and also be able to benefit from it.
And also get involved in this stateswood.
Absolutely.
Yeah, see you guys next time. Bye.